Okay, it is recorded.
Yeah.
All right, so Kerry, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Welcome everyone. Talofa lava, malo ale, kia ora, kia orana. It's really good to have the opportunity to be here with you. This is going to be an interesting presentation and I'm going to expect some engagement. First of all, I would like to thank and acknowledge those people who have gone before me. And the whakatauki that I am using is something that's very, very important to me. I think it's really important to work with others. I don't think anyone can do it on their own, especially post-grad study. So it's not a competition. Everyone can get A's and it's a matter of everyone helping everyone else. So my poor master's students and post-grad students, doctoral students, have all been subjective to my philosophy. So I will share things with them, but I also ask that when they improve it, that they allow me to, they'll share it back to me and then I can pass it on. So everyone builds on everyone else's knowledge rather than reinventing the wheel. And that's sort of what we're doing tonight. So with their permission, I will be sharing this PowerPoint. I will share what docs I have so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, just to make it easier for you. Okay, so this came with a warning. You're here, so you've been warned. This is going to be an interactive presentation, so I'm going to expect you to give me some feedback and to engage. Okay, so the outline of the presentation, by the end of the presentation, I'm hoping that you have some sort of figures, some sort of ideas for presenting your ideas. Now, this will be for maybe a presentation that you've got to do for your masters. It may be a presentation you've got to do for class, so with PowerPoint. It may be something for your PYR or for text, so for your proposal or your thesis, or maybe your orals. So I'm hoping there'll be just one or two diagrams, figures that you'll be able to adapt and tweak and use straight away, and hopefully you'll get a whole lot more ideas. So these are things we're going to look at. We're going to look at linking your research question and your sub-questions, timelines, phases, making linkages between participants and data collections and theory, and then summing it up, how you can ram it home and say, see, give me my PhD because I've deserved it. So just pulling it all together for your last slide. Okay, one of the things we need to consider is the purpose. So for the information, when you're looking at putting text or a diagram in amongst the text, you've got to think, what's the section about? What's important? Are you trying to summarize the information, provide more detail? And that's really important that you decide before you start making your slide or your figure. Then the message you're going to convey, you're going to think about whether it's your key ideas. So what are the key ideas and how do they relate? So have you got one key idea and these are sub-ideas, or are they all intermingled? So you've got to actually think about which one's going to come first, the main idea, and the others are going to flow. Then you're going to have to think about your audience, and that's really important. Is your marker more knowledgeable than you? Is your reader almost as knowledgeable as you? Is your reader actually, they're intelligent, but they really don't know anything about my topic? In which case you're going to have to explain your ideas in a different form. And that's really important. You know that before you even start. The other thing is your visuals, that you're thinking about the placement of your visual, the placement of the text, where you're putting your key idea. So if it's your key idea, then you may put the next idea underneath it. You may want it on, say, the left-hand side and then break down your key ideas. but putting it on the right hand side often just doesn't seem to flow with our mind. You tend to think key idea first and then you break it down. Also, use of colour. So if you're going to use a mixture of colours and then you're putting things, say, in blue, the viewer is going to think those things in blue are linked somehow. So that's great if they are, but if they're not, you're confusing the viewer. So colour is a fantastic tool that can give a lot of information without the need of text. However, it can confuse things. So just be aware of that. Also, which is the priority, and thinking about your aesthetics. Also, size and placement of text is really, really important. So you want to keep minimal text, keep it clear, gaps for the reader if you want the reader to think about one thing and then move on. Now, all of this is common sense, but often when you start making it, you forget about it. So it's just a matter of keeping that at the back of your mind when you're making your images. Okay, now what I'd like you to do, pencil in hand, I want you to think about your main research idea and then your sub-research questions. And I want you then to show the relationship between your research question and your sub-questions. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to visually represent that somehow. I'm presuming it's going to be a lot of writing, but how I want you to show me how they're linked. Okay, so when you've sort of done that, can you give me a thumbs up? Okay, a couple minutes and we'll stop. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is tell me, did you make a list, a process, or was there some sort of hierarchy or relationship? So can somebody tell me what their relationship was?
Hi, Kerry, it's Bethany.
Bethany?
Hi, I did a hierarchy with leadership at the top and then teachers and students together underneath. So yeah, with the question in the middle, because I was, yeah.
Oh, interesting. So you had your question in the middle, and then you're looking at the participants or the people who are influencing that, or are you looking at sub-questions relate to those two things on either side?
I think I sort of saw the leadership question at the top, and then underneath the question that relates to teachers and students, but the main question in the middle, just because I felt like the leadership had more influence.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I use the key concept in a hierarchy as well. The key concept on top, which in that case is a sense of belonging, and then each research question has a related concept like place, narration, and method, and so they were underneath, and then underneath that, what is part of that subordinate research question.
Great. Great. Has anyone got anything different?
I'm actually looking for an arc, like because I have an overarching question.
Right.
Yeah, because I've got this overarching question on or around skills development, and what are the different factors that that kind of underline the questions.
Brilliant, brilliant. I can picture that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is move on and see if, I'm sure you've got lots more ideas, and we're going to be doing this for quite a few things. So we'll move on. So here are some possible examples. So you've got your main question, your sub-questions underneath, or here you can see main question again, main question here, sub-question, and this flows from that, those ones. So lots of different ways. This one shows that these are coming out of the main question. So the arrow's showing the direction where they're coming from. So there isn't a right and a wrong. It's whatever you think works for your topic or key idea. So you could still have, if you've got an argument, your main point and the points underneath. If you're not thinking about a thesis, but if you're thinking more about a postgrad paper. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is getting another piece of paper, you've got your research questions, and how are you going to answer them? So you're going to collect data probably to answer your research question. And you're probably not going to, you may not use the same strategies to answer every research question. So how can you show, for this question I'm going to use this, for this question I'm going to use these tools. So now do that. Okay, a couple minutes and we'll stop. Okay, has anyone got one? I mean, you've only had a few minutes. Has anyone got one that they can show up, put in front of the screen and show us? Because now you're starting to get more complex. So you're showing your questions and how they link to your data gathering tool. Anyone, bro? Go on, have a go.
I don't know if you can see it, but
Bring it right up to the front. Oh no, with your background.
okay.
No.
Oh wait.
Can
How can I do this?
you turn off your virtual background?
I will turn off the background and okay. Because I'm using an iPad.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can. Okay, so what's that? You've got a pie in the middle.
Yeah.
And so, and then it's got a circle on the outside, another circle. So explain those to us.
So the outer circle is the overarching question. In the one portion of the pie, I use the infinity symbol, which is basically the framework that I'm trying to develop. It measures teachers. It actually investigates teachers. How can I say? Teachers' engagement or use of tools and how it affects their attitude towards professional development. And then the other one is like a hierarchy. Oh, is that a hierarchy? Like a pyramid, but half pyramid only, because I want to measure teachers' different level of proficiencies. In the last one is about is like, what is that? A Venn diagram. It's a Venn diagram because there are contradictions that I wanted to know or I wanted to discover.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jet. That's brilliant. Has anyone else got a diagram to show, to represent their ideas?
I do have, but it doesn't link with my research questions, but more of my data collections and stuff. Is it okay to see it?
Of course.
Okay, a minute. So it's more of a hierarchy. This one.
Okay, so we're going to get on to doing that one later. So explain that to us.
So this is just my research approach in here. So I'm using triangulation. I'm just showing the step, like I do this data collection of quant and qual simultaneously, and then merge the result. For the sampling approach, because I use multi-stage, I show like this pink color for the quantitative. Like you can see here, I use the pink color for quantitative. So in the stage 1 and stage 2, I collect for quantitative. And I use the instrument questionnaire. I also use the colors that is something related to pink. And it's also follow up with the analysis. And it's also the same for qual. I indicated with yellow. So for my sampling stage, I use critical sampling. And yeah, the yellow color just follow up with the instrument and analysis itself. And
Excellent.
then for the merge result, I use this kind of turquoise and data consolidation.
Great. Great.
I like colors, so I kind of use it to represent self and link with each other.
No, that's perfect. And you don't have to explain it in as much detail as the colours do it for you. So that's fantastic.
Okay, I will stop sharing screen now.
So has anyone else got any other
Maybe
strategies?
can
I got one. Maybe I can share. Can I share my screen because it's not allowed now?
Just a sec. Sorry. Sorry, Dennis, I'm just getting onto it.
Sure.
I think you can hover the pointer on his screen.
Oh, make it. Can I do it that way?
Oh yes, I can share it now.
Okay.
Yeah, can you all see? I got a similar similar structures separating my face, different face data collection, and for the analysis, I try to link it to the research questions that I'm referring to. Oops, and yeah, that's another outlook of. I think it's quite similar to the one just shared by Fori. Is that Fori? Yep.
And also you've got that
I've
consistency
got
of the colour.
yes,
Yeah.
and I've also got the table for different methods and different research questions.
Don't rush me. We'll get to that
Okay,
one.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. How do I get off you? Stop video? No.
I think I need to stop, but I can't. How can I? Oh, yes, I find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Baz, were you going to show one or?
yeah, I think mine is maybe simpler version. But I couldn't share my screen.
Okay.
It's been okay. Let's see. So yeah, because you said just now to match the research question with the approach, the method that we use. So actually, all of my research question will be using both approaches. So the survey and also the interview. So this is how I linked it. But this one is slightly simpler as compared to
Okay. So with
each
this one, So and why have you got the top ones are green and the bottom one is blue?
because this is to measure their to look into their teaching practices, because I'm not conducting the observation. So these are to look into their different component, which is their PCK on entrepreneurship education. So
you've got some research questions which focus on one thing and another research question which focuses on something else. Is that right?
Yeah.
And that way now you've grouped them. So not only have you set up your research questions, you've actually now ordered them and color-coded them and then linked them to how you're going to answer that with your data collection tools.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Okay. Well, that's hard case because that's quite similar to what I was going to do. So this is the similar one here where you can see main research question broken down into sub-research questions. And this one is on student strategies. This one is on their opinions. And you can see that to answer that, I am doing a questionnaire and interviews. To answer this one, I'm doing questionnaire and interviews. But to this one, I'm only getting that answered via the questionnaire. And this one is only going to be answered via the questionnaire. So it's quite clear, quite simple, gives the information very, very quickly and easily. Okay, now I want you to think about your key steps, stages, or phases for your data collection. So how are you going to do that if you haven't already done it? If you have done it, you may be able to look at it again or just reflect on, if you're thinking about collecting your data, what are the key phases, the steps, the stages that you're going to go through. So just have a couple of minutes on that. Okay, a couple minutes and we'll stop. Okay, we'll stop there. Some simple ways is having something as simple as this. You've got 2 phases, 2 stages. So with this one, you're going through phase 1 and then phase 2. Can someone tell me what you think of the colours? So there's 2 different styles. Which one do you prefer?
I prefer the coloured one, and I'd probably lean towards linking the colours of your phases with the colours of the methods and the research questions that you're targeting from the previous diagram.
Great, great. So that would make sense. Yep, I like it. What else? What about someone else? Does everyone like the green and the blue?
I think I prefer the other one. It's I think it's more simplified, less distractions.
Okay, cool. And I can see that. So you're focusing on the content and you're not looking at the color, whereas Ruth is saying she wants the color, but she wants the color to be meaningful, and at the moment it isn't. So can you, and what else, what does that tell you about the arrows? What do the arrows indicate?
From
The arrows indicates the process, the stages.
the stages from first phase to another phase.
Okay, so you've got one happening and then there's another thing happening. Okay, so you're doing phase 1, you're doing surveys, and then phase 2, you're then going to do interviews. So one would presume with data gathering, the first data gathering point will be in phase 1, you'll be doing the surveys, and then later, after that, you'll be doing phase 2. So that information on timing has also been given to the viewer without you even mentioning anything. You've also told the viewer which one comes first, quantitative or qualitative. If, however, you look at this side, very, very similar, phases down the side and then broken down into the method, what's this one telling you?
That
Not connected.
they are happening concurrently.
Good. So you've got study 1 and study 2 happening at the same time. What else?
I think it kind of, there's a progression, I guess.
Good. But things are moving along. You've got 2 parts to study 1 and 2 phases to study 2, and they're both going to go over time. So all of that has been given simply by the shape of the arrow and the positioning of the arrow. This one, thank you, Baz. Now, for this one, you would probably not use this in a PowerPoint slide if you've got a lot of people. However, it gives a lot of information very succinctly. So it pulls it all in together. So you're saying what your main question is, you've got the sub question, what your instrument is, participants. So it's a lot of information about what's happening in phase 1 and phase 2. So this could be really, really useful for in your proposal or in your thesis, okay? You'd have to probably break it up and have phase 1 and phase 2 if you're having it in the slides, and even then it's too heavy in your text. So you can see it's very, very similar to the one before, but the amount of text is totally different. Okay, now you're thinking of timelines. So I want you to think about the major things that you've got to do in your study. Before we were just talking about data collection. Now you're thinking about all the major things and how are you going to show those? Because you have to do that usually for your proposal, and you may want to include it again in your thesis. So how are you going to show all of that succinctly? So just do that for a couple minutes. Okay, we'll stop there. We won't have a sharing of that one because I think your timelines may be quite similar. So there's timelines like this, which are Gantt charts. So again, my poor students who are here tonight will be very aware of Gantt charts. So Gantt charts are where you put all your tasks down the side, your timeline along the top, and you colour in when you're going to start and when you're going to finish. And this is really useful because often with study, you push out, you take more time than you think, so you push it out. And this visually shows you the ramifications of that you push that out, then that means that's going to be pushed out and I have to start here. I have to get into a university here. I can't do that. So it's really, really useful for visually to use Gantt charts. But there's also lots of other ways. So some of you may have written it in text and you might want to show your timeline in text. So there's these happening, these things happening, these things happening. You could actually do the dates. From this date, I'm going to do this, then I'm going into schools, or I'm going to collect this before schools, holidays, then I'm collecting this. Or you may have something like this is an interventions happening here. So this is the data collection going along what you're going to do. And this is the detail of exactly what's going to occur at those times. And then here is the written, what's going to happen as a result. So from this, I'm going to now write this. During this time, I'm going to be writing that. So in one diagram, your supervisor can see what's happening. Okay, now I'd like you to think about your participants. So you're going to know lots of things about your participants. What can you tell me or show me about your participants? So can you think of any diagrams or anything that you could use in some sort of PowerPoint slide to tell me about your participants in some way? So can you represent that for me? Okay, a couple minutes and we'll stop. Okay, has anyone got any diagrams that they could share?
Is it okay if I share mine? I really want some feedback.
Go for it.
Okay. I cannot share the screen. Okay. It's quite a lot of things happening.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically each triangle represents a participant. I'm trying to limit the number of participants according to their level of technological expertise. Is the activity theory. So I'm gonna look at each participant from a macro lens, micro lens, using chat.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Great. I'd love to look at that in detail later, see what I can learn. Has anyone, thank you for that. Has anyone else got any others, different styles, different looks?
Well, I can't really show anything because I just scribbled down things that I could use as metaphors. But I was thinking if I'm looking at curriculum and what that looks like in the classroom, then I could use either the nautilus shell, and you know that is used as a metaphor for the learning areas, or I could use the structure of the Hangaro technology curriculum specifically, or I could also use visually the Stardust, the framework that I introduced in my masters, because I think visually the parts of it, stars and the head going through to the hand and the place for drying eels going down to the flounder shape representing hospitality and stakeholders, that could contain all of the components. I'm so sorry like that I can't show you anything because on my page it looks very boring.
Okay, so you're looking at explaining your participants pictorially and visually.
Yeah.
Jet's using quite a mathematical approach to visually represent the involvement of the participants. Now, both are right. They're both going to give a different message. So if any of you got another different way of showing your participants. Okay, what I'll do is I will move on and quickly show, I'm aware I'm running out of time. So these are different ways. So with this one, thanks Baz, you have a higher, you've got one level and then you're breaking it down into, so you've got all of higher education and breaking down into different universities, and then within them you've got different faculties and different participants. So in a hierarchy, I can see where my participants have come from. With this one, I've got my academics, and I'm looking down on them at their beliefs, their perceptions, their strategies, and their knowledge. So that's visually showing how I'm getting my data. Or I could do a table and say, in this setting, there are this many supervisors, this many students, and that's how many I'm getting from that one university setting. So all of those would be ways you could show your participants. Another way is I could collect data from schools, from teachers, from students, and then as those students move into university, I'd collect data again. And then as less of them move into their second year, I'd collect data from them, and some of them won't continue. I'm going to collect data from them. So this is showing that I'm going to collect the data from all of these people, and I'm going to collect it via surveys and interviews. And this is what I'm collecting, is some information here. So I want to look at teachers to investigate the influence of. So that diagram shows a whole lot of things about my participants. Okay, so I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to whiz through this one. So I would have got you to justify your questions that you're looking at. So one way is you're going to look at your variables. So you've got your different variables on the left here. So everyone often will look at their age and their gender, but you shouldn't be collecting data unless you can justify it. So why would you look at someone's gender? Why would you be interested in someone's age? And then down here, this person has found that these are important. These do make a difference. These have an influence. So this table gives me a lot of information and helps show that, yes, what I'm doing has rigor. And this one shows that people have seen that students' perspectives on a topic, this is research in Malaysia, thanks again, Baz. So these are, let's see, these are, so we're looking at the Malaysian context. So it's really important that when you're justifying doing something, you're not just justifying it because of the research methods, but you're also justifying because it answers your research question, but also because it's applicable for your context. So what might happen in China may not happen here in New Zealand. We've got different education systems. So you need to justify it for your context as well as for your topic. So this table shows very clearly that in the Malaysian context, that this is research that has been done on these issues. So investigating students' perspective on this topic, all of these people have investigated that. So same with the need to implement this, it's all been done here. So a table can summarize a lot of research quite succinctly. I can see gaps quite easily. Codes and themes, again, you're going to need to show how you're going to code. Everyone sort of says, oh, I'm going to collect my data and I'm going to collect and do interviews and then I'm going to code it. And how can you visually show that quite quickly? So there's lots of different ways. So one way is with this one here, you've got your main overarching topic, and then you're doing a document, you're looking at interview, and you're looking at data, documents, frequency search, then you're doing line by line, then you're coming up with the categories, then you're pulling it together. With this one, you're looking at the overarching data. It's collecting from 2 different universities, and these are your codes that are dropping out of that. With this one, you're looking at document analysis, different institutions, where they are. Then you've got then you've got the policy documents that you're actually looking at. So what documents are we looking at? And now here's your codes and your clusters. Again, this would not be suitable for a PowerPoint, but really suitable for your thesis and your proposal and your writing up, because there's a lot of information there. It will be in a PowerPoint, you can look at it later, And the same with that one. So it's pulling together absolutely everything that was done and how it was done. Significance of your findings. If we had time, I would have got you to look at the so what. Now this is so important. Right near the end of your proposal, the end of your paper, everything you're giving, it's the punch. See, I am right. So what are the significance? For a PhD, you've got to have new knowledge. So what is that new knowledge that in your field? And how are you going to show that in one slide? How are you going to pull together all of those ideas? So what you can do is go into, the reason I didn't do show on the PowerPoint was I wanted to go into insert in your PowerPoint, go across into Smart Art. Now, those of you who know about Smart Art will have used it lots, but I'm surprised how many people don't use it. So Smart Art is there, and that's where you could make a list. You could do your process, see your ideas are linking together. Maybe showing your significance might be more cyclical. It might be hierarchical. You might have a whole lot of something like this with your triangles, circles, something inside something, inside something. So all of these are very quick, easy ways for you to show your relationship and the significance. So with this one, it's simple, key idea in the middle and broken out. So Smart Art would have done that very, very quickly for you without a lot of work. And I am running out of time. So here we are. Thank you, Dennis. So this one is key research question, breaking it up, again, color-coded, breaking it up into your interview questions, your observation. How are you answering that? You're answering it this way, and here's your theoretical framework. Here's another style, again, color-coded, study 1, study 2, breaking up. It's got a lot of information in there. Now, this is something that I really quite like. There's a heck of a lot of information in this one table. So if I want to know how many males and females, yes. How many males and females of a certain age group, yes. How many males and females with a certain amount of teaching experience? How many males and females of each of the disciplines? And then if I go down, I then can do the same for the age going through each one of those. So there's a lot of information in that one table and the percentages. So that looks easy, but it's taken a lot of work to get that one table. Visually showing, if you've used in vivo, visually showing the words. If you've got a big bold word, then it's used a lot, found a lot in your interview data. So this is very, very quick, easy, but represents a lot of thought and findings. Again, this way you can see case study 1, the interviews, then pulling together the method, then coming back to your findings. So this sort of thing is really good near the end, pulling it all together. This one here shows various participants and the variables. So that's something that would be only very more low level, but it would be in your findings. Okay, so summing up, the reader really needs to, you've got to really think about your figure. It needs to be simple. If your reader has to think and think hard and try and make sense of your figure, then it's probably too complex. It's better to have 2 rather than 1. Keep your information to a bare minimum. With your titles, they've got to be clear and simple and learn how to reference correctly. So know where you put the title. Does it go on the top? Is it in bold? Is it in italics? Find out how to APA reference and use it absolutely correctly. The other thing is your thesis is going to be amazing. People are going to want a reference from you. They're going to want to reference your work. your table has to be able to, and figures have to be able to be uplifted and used without all the text explaining it. So try and avoid abbreviations, because that means that people are going to be looking at your tables without all the information. And make sure that it's clearly understood by someone as a standalone entity. See if you can use something like Scrabble or games just to create visual slides without needing a lot of text. And the other thing is keep it simple. Things whizzing in and flying in and a lot of text. The more text when you're presenting, often the more text you start reading, you can't help it, because it's there. So you're going to start reading it. So the less text, it's so much better. So that's it from me. What I will do is all of the docs are included, and all of the PDFs have been included there, and I'll also share the PowerPoint so you can look through. So I apologize, I don't want to teach everyone how to suck eggs, because I'm sure you're absolutely awesome at it, but I've always been surprised every now and then people will do a figure and they'll sort of say, oh, I don't, it's so hard. And I'm a visual person, and all of my students are subjected to my visual. I'm always saying, give me a diagram, show it to me in a picture. And that's the way I work. And they're all nodding their heads, because that's what I do. So I realize it's not everyone functions the same way. So for me, it's easy, and for others, it's not. So if you're one of the ones that's not, feel free to flick me a diagram if you're struggling with one, and I'm happy to work with you with it, because I love it, and I do find it quite easy, but I am a bit uptight about things. My students will tell you about that. So yeah, thank you for sharing, and my students, thank you for sharing all of your, being generous, sharing your ideas and your diagrams for everybody else to be able to build off your ideas. So thank you.
Kerry, are you open for some questions?
Sure. If you don't want to stay, then that's fine. I know it's tea time, but yeah, more than happy to answer questions.
I've got one question. From an examiner perspective, how much weight do the examiners put on the visuals?
That's a very difficult answer. So are you talking about in your orals?
Both in the oral and in the written.
Okay, so there's no answer for that. Basically, it's a matter of, can you get your idea across clearly? So often it's easier to give a diagram and then explain it in a little bit in text and give a diagram. And if it needs more, then fine, expand on it. But sometimes with complex ideas, sometimes you need a visual sort of thing. Oh, okay, so that's how that links to that. Especially if you're using terms that maybe the examiner's not aware of, or concepts that they're not aware of. But if you're doing something that's straightforward and always been done before, then why would you include a visual? So there isn't a right and a wrong, but to me, it's good to put in visuals, because it simplifies things so much easier. The other thing you've got to think of is your examiners. Do they know? So for my examiners, I crossed faculties, and a lot of people do that. So you'll have someone who knows lots about some, but not about other parts of it. How are you going to help them to understand the complex stuff that they know nothing about, and they're reading it? So often a visual means they can skip some of the text, some of all the abbreviation, which the other person totally understands. I had no idea education was full of jargon. I thought everybody knew what a DP was and an AP was. You know, everybody knows DP is deputy principal, but if you're not in education, apparently you don't. So little things like that, you know, a visual can really help sometimes. So sorry, I didn't really answer the question, but there isn't an easy answer.
A follow-up question. Let's say, for example, we were able to put up a beautiful and kind of a standalone visual. Do we get credit for it? As it like additional points, or?
Yes. So that's why, and you need to always say source. So if you're adapting your idea on somebody else's, so that's brownie points. So if you've got someone's framework and you've pulled in someone else's framework and someone else's ideas and someone else's ideas, and now you've got 3 people's ideas and you're showing how they interrelate, that's impressive. So you're saying adapted by, from, and you load, and so now the examiner can see this person really knows their stuff because they're able to pull together a whole lot of ideas. Or if you've created it yourself, you've got a whole lot of ideas from all over the place, and you can't say it's from one place, then you must say source, author, so they know, wow, this person's created this themselves. This is awesome. So you've got to do that all the time so the reader marker knows, wow, impressive, this person made that. Otherwise they tend to think, really like that, I wish I knew where that came from, and you don't get the brownie points.
Kerry, I have a question. My connection's quite bad though, I think. Do we need to do this sort of PowerPoint to present papers that we do along the way as well?
Yes, you will. When you do papers, you will need to probably in one slide explain your methodology. You might have 2 slides, so you've got to be really succinct and choose your images really well. You may want to use text, but it's going to depend on how much other text you've got in your presentation. But yes, often the things we've talked about today would be used in multiple places. Okay, that looks about it. Thanks everyone, it's been really neat. I hope you got something out of it, and flick me an email, but I will provide all of the information. Happy to share anything I can with you. And if you've got anything exciting, please share back so I can add to my repertoire.
All right, so seems like everyone's got no
Yeah,
more.
I think just a final comment on tonight or this evening's presentation. Yes, it's been very, very helpful because most of us tend to just write, and we tend to forget to be creative with the visual aspect of our research, which, you know, everybody appreciate when we see some pictures or diagrams, and but it's just difficult. But having heard from you, at least we've got, you know, some concepts and ideas how to effectively or successfully create a diagram of our own. At least we've got a framework based on the things that you have listed for us, like for example the timeline, how to put them all together. So I think my suggestion for myself and for everyone, I think, is just be creative, explore, but make sure that you share it with others, and so you get some feedback, especially to Dr. Kerry, because she's really keen on visual representation of our research. Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. And one thing that I think is important, just to build on what Jet said, is try and make sure that your diagram is built on what the message you want to say. Don't look at something on PowerPoint and think, oh, I can make it fit that, because it won't. So draw it first, or try and link your ideas. Think, which is the first one? What's the priority? How does that relate with that? Do all that thinking before you start trying to then make it visual. because otherwise it won't come across clearly and you won't get the links right.
Just one more question. Just now I noticed you share about the word clouds. Is it suitable to be used in the thesis? Or
Yes.
just for the presentation?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I've seen multiple ones in the thesis to explain that you have to explain that the size it represents. But yes, I've seen them in thesis. So yeah, not a problem. Great. Thanks everyone. I'll leave you to it, and yeah, all the best with your study, and I know you'll do really well and it will be really visual.
Okay, so thank you so much again, Kerry.
You're welcome.
You can
Bye
see
everyone.
at the chat box as well, like everyone thanking you.
Oh,
And
nice. I'll go in.
yeah,
Oh.
it's been very helpful. Like so far, I'm actually on my research proposal, almost time to submit as well, and now I need to think of the diagram to put it together as well. It's really helpful, and I hope everyone's in here also find the session helpful again. And thank you so much, Kerry. And
You're
I
welcome.
think we should end the session now and enjoy our dinner.
Bon appetit, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much,
Guys,
Kerry.
thank you.